Hello, this is Yogeshwar 7000 again, and this is a continuation to our stories from the Puranas. And today we'll be talking about the great demon named Tarakasur, which is mentioned in the Puranas. So, this is how the story goes. There was a demon, and demons in Sanskrit are called asuras. So, suras are gods, and asuras are demons in Sanskrit. So there was a demon named Tara, and Tara's son was Taraka, and he was called Tarakasur because he was a asura. And Tarakasur wanted to defeat the gods, so he went to a place called Madhuvana and began to perform rigorous austerities, which is tapasya as it's called in Sanskrit. So he looked at the sun and gazed at the sun and stood there with his arms raised, and these are severe austerities, and it's believed by Hindus that when you perform severe austerities you get powers through the gods. He stood on one leg, and that too only on the toes of his feet, and 100 years passed, and for those 100 years Taraka drank only water and had no food to eat. For the next 100 years he gave up water as well and lived only on air, and another 100 years were spent when he performed tapasya or austerities inside water, and another 100 years on earth, and following that he performed another severe austerity by staying inside fire for 100 years, and following that for another 100 years he performed his austerity upside down, standing on his hands with his legs raised up in the air, and for another 100 years following that he hung upside down from the branches of a tree. So these are the kind of austerities he performed. Just why? Because he wanted to defeat the gods. And like I mentioned, that Hindus do believe that, once you perform these austerities and ask for the divine power to come, they give you the power and grant you boons, whatever you wish for. So this austerity was so hard and so difficult that Lord Brahma was pleased, and he appeared before Tarakasura and he said, "Well, I'm pleased with your austerities, your tapasya as it's called in Sanskrit. What boon do you want?" And Tarakasura, asura is the Sanskrit word for demon, and Taraka was his name. So joining the two words it becomes Tarakasura. So Tarakasura asks Brahma, "Please grant me two boons. The first boon should be that no one created by you should be as strong as me, and the second boon should be that I should only be killed by Shiva's son." And he knew that Shiva had no son at that point of time, so he probably thought at that point that he became immortal because Shiva had no sons. Sati had died, who was actually Rudra's wife, and of course Shiva and Rudra one. People who have not watched my earlier videos, please refer to that. And although she had been reborn to Himalaya as his daughter Parvati, she still had not been married to Shiva. So Tarakasur was under the impression that, of course, well, Shiva will never have a son, and obviously he'll be so strong so nobody can kill him, and he becomes immortal after getting his boon. And Lord Brahma granted Tarakasura the two boons. The first boon, no one created by Brahma would be as strong as him, which is Tarakasura, and the second boon was that he could only be killed by Shiva's son. So then after getting these boons, the demon was delighted, and he went to a city named Shonitapura and began to live in that city. And all the other demons were so impressed by the power of Tarakasur that they accepted his superiority and accepted him as his king, thanks to the boon. And Tarakasura was very strong. He easily defeated the gods. He conquered the 3 worlds and drove the gods out of heaven. So there are 3 worlds. One is the heavens, the other is the earth, and the third plane is the Patala Loka, which is believed to be below earth. So he just conquered all 3 and drove out the gods from the heavens. He took all the belongings of the gods, and he was so harsh on the gods that he even employed them as his attendants. Can you believe that? Anyways, and the gods were so disturbed that they went to Lord Brahma and asked him to find a solution to the Tarakasura problem. And Lord Brahma said, well, I'm sorry, I cannot, because I've already performed a boon that the demon has to become so powerful that he could be, there would be nobody as strong as him, and also he could only be killed by Shiva's son, and Shiva has no son. And as they all knew that Shiva was performing tapasya in the Himalaya mountains, and Parvati was also in that Himalayan range at that point of time, but they were not married. So they probably thought, not probably, they actually thought, Lord Brahma and the gods thought that, well, we should do something so that Lord Shiva and Parvati could fall in love and they could get married, and once they get married they'll have a son, and that son could defeat and kill Tarakasura. So that's the only solution they had. And how it is to be done was what the gods pondered over. And they actually took Brahma's advice that this is the only way, that if Lord Shiva and Parvati can come together, fall in love, get married, they could have a son, and that's the only way Tarakasura could be defeated and killed. So anyways, this was a little short story on Tarakasura, how he was created, what kind of problems he was giving to the gods, and what kind of boons he had from Lord Brahma, so that he became invincible and he couldn't be defeated and killed by anybody. Nobody was as powerful and strong as him. And this was for the gods to decide as to how to deal with this problem. And hopefully you enjoyed this this little story, which will be continued in my next video. This video is too short to cover the entire story on Tarakasura, so I'll see you again in another video which will have a continuation to this story as to how the gods dealt with this problem of Tarakasura. And this story, by the way, again, it's coming straight from the Puranas. It's not any kind of a fiction. And as Hindus do believe in the Puranas, they believe that it's true, it's not fiction. A lot of people call Hindu mythology, or call the Puranas as Hindu mythology, and mythology basically means it's a myth. But no, the Puranas, as per the Hindus, are the true stories. And of course it's hard to believe, how could people live hundreds and hundreds of years and perform rigorous penances and austerities? Well, in those days and ages it was possible, and that's what the Puranas say, and they have vouched for that. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. In the meanwhile, I will recommend subscribe to my channel, check out my website, there is a link below, and I will see you with the continuation to the stories in Puranas, especially this one, the Tarakasura story, will continue in my next video. In the meanwhile, I will recommend subscribe to my channel if you've already not, check out my website, and I will see you soon. Goodbye.